Jeffrey Epstein is one of the most documented individuals in modern American criminal history. And yet, he is also one of the least understood. Over the past 2 decades, thousands of pages of court filings, investigative records, and sworn testimony have been made public. In recent years, millions more pages have been released or unsealed. These documents have fueled public interest, intense scrutiny, and widespread speculation. This documentary does not attempt to solve unanswered questions. It does not assign guilt beyond what courts have determined. And it does not rely on rumor. Instead, it is based on the official record, court documents, government reports, sworn testimony. Where facts are established, they will be stated clearly. Where allegations exist, they will be identified as allegations. And where information is missing, contradictory, or unknown, that uncertainty will be stated plainly. This is not a story about conspiracy. It is a story about power, accountability, and documented failure. Jeffrey Edward Epstein was born in 1953 in Brooklyn, New York. He attended public schools and later enrolled at Cooper Union, followed by New York University. There is no public record showing that he completed a degree at either institution. In the mid-1970s, Epstein worked briefly as a teacher at the Dalton School, an elite private school in Manhattan. One of his students' parents later helped him enter the financial sector. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, Epstein was employed at Bear Stearns. He worked in options trading. His departure from the firm has been described differently by different sources. Bear Stearns later stated that Epstein was dismissed for violations of company policy. No criminal charges were filed in connection with that departure. After leaving Bear Stearns, Epstein presented himself as a private financial manager. He claimed to work exclusively for extremely wealthy clients. However, the precise source of his wealth has never been fully established in public records or in court. This lack of clarity has been repeatedly noted by journalists and investigators. By the 1990s and early 2000s, Epstein owned multiple high-value properties. These included residences in New York, Florida, New Mexico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Paris. He also cultivated relationships with academics, politicians, business figures, and members of high society. It is important to state clearly, social proximity is not evidence of criminal involvement. Photographs, event attendance, contact lists, or flight logs demonstrate contact. They do not, on their own, demonstrate wrongdoing. Courts have consistently treated such material as contextual, not determinative. At the same time, these relationships later became relevant to civil litigation and public scrutiny. That scrutiny intensified after Epstein first came under criminal investigation. That moment came in 2006. In 2005 and 2006, law enforcement in Palm Beach, Florida, began investigating allegations against Jeffrey Epstein. The allegations involved the sexual abuse of underage girls. In 2006, local police completed an extensive investigation. Their report recommended multiple felony charges. These included unlawful sexual activity with a minor. The case was then reviewed by the Palm Beach County State Attorney's Office. prosecutors. The non-prosecution agreement remains one of the most controversial aspects of the Epstein case, not because of speculation, but because of what the document itself explicitly allowed. Jeffrey Epstein's wealth and his access to powerful people are central to public interest in this case. But they are also among the least clearly documented aspects of his life. What follows is limited to what is supported by financial records, court filings, and sworn testimony, nothing more. Epstein presented himself as a private financial manager who worked exclusively for a small number of ultra-wealthy clients. He claimed that this exclusivity explained both his wealth and his unusual privacy. However, public records do not provide a complete or verifiable list of those clients. This has never been resolved in criminal court. Several journalists and investigators have noted that Epstein's financial structure was highly opaque. His companies were often privately held. His investment strategies were not publicly disclosed, and he was not required to file the same disclosures as regulated hedge funds. As a result, there is no single document that explains how Epstein accumulated or maintained his fortune. This gap in the record has led to widespread speculation. It is important to say clearly, speculation is not evidence. What can be stated with certainty is that Epstein used his wealth to gain access to influential environments. He donated to universities. He funded research projects. He hosted events. In some cases, these relationships were purely professional or social. In other cases, they became relevant in later civil litigation. One category of documents often cited in public discussion is Epstein's contact lists. These lists contain names, phone numbers, and email addresses of thousands of individuals. They demonstrate that Epstein had contact with many prominent figures. They do not demonstrate criminal conduct by those individuals. Courts have repeatedly emphasized this distinction. Another frequently cited source is flight logs from Epstein's private aircraft. These logs record dates, routes, and passenger names. They establish that certain individuals traveled on Epstein's planes. They do not establish why they traveled, what occurred during those trips, or whether any crime took place. Some names appear multiple times. Others appear once. The logs themselves contain no allegations and no conclusions. In legal proceedings, they have been treated as corroborating evidence only when paired with independent testimony or additional proof. Without that context, they are records of travel, nothing more. This distinction has often been lost in online discourse. In several civil cases, plaintiffs allege that Epstein used his wealth and connections to facilitate abuse. Those allegations were tested in court through testimony, cross-examination, and documentary evidence. Some claims resulted in settlements, others did not. A settlement is not a finding of guilt. It is a legal resolution that often includes no admission of wrongdoing. Another source of confusion has been Epstein's association with powerful institutions. He interacted with politicians, academics, scientists, and business leaders. In many cases, these interactions were brief, public, or transactional. There is no evidence that a coordinated network of powerful individuals was directing Epstein's crimes. No such finding was made by any court. No such charge was brought by prosecutors. This does not mean that every interaction was benign. It means that the available evidence does not support claims of a hidden conspiracy operating behind the scenes. What the record does show is something more limited and more verifiable. Epstein used money to gain credibility. He used credibility to gain access, and that access reduced scrutiny for many years. This pattern has been documented in multiple cases involving financial crimes and abuse of power. It does not require coordination or secrecy at scale. It requires only imbalance, wealth, influence, and silence. By the late 2000s, this silence began to break.